Like, what are the worst things someone can do if they want to just die and not be productive? What should they do all the time?
Right. Yeah. Well, maybe live the average American lifestyle, or the American diet, where
Big
yeah, like
giant
about
hamburger, French fries, barbecue
yeah.
sauce. Hello, hello. What's up, everybody? And welcome back to the Sean Lowery Show. Today, I have with me Siim, or Siim. That's how you say it, right?
Yeah, it seems good.
The Siim land. Is that? Am I saying it right?
Yeah, it's exactly, yeah. Like most people from the States would say like Sim, but the
Yeah,
Estonian version is like more Siim, more like longer.
Siim. All right, I'll call you Siim then. If that's how you say it.
That's good.
So, for those of you listening, Siim Land. He's an author, best-selling author, content creator, high performance coach, hundreds of thousands of followers on social media, big YouTube channel, and he spent years of his life, his young life. How old are you?
I'm at 26 at the moment.
26. That's awesome. A young guy, training his body and mind in different formats through physical training, mindfulness, creativity, and taking control of his body with biohacking. Siim, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, yeah. Like enjoying the winter.
Is it cold there?
Uh, it's pretty not that cold, but there's a lot of snow. Yeah, but like the bigger cold is coming in February, so that's usually the coldest month of the year.
Okay. All right. And yeah, you're in Estonia, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So I love talking about this stuff. And I haven't had an expert like this on my podcast. And I want to talk to you about some productivity, some anti-aging, which is something I'm fascinated in, and then some like physical health and weight loss stuff. So let's start off with productivity. All right. So I consider myself to be a pretty productive person. My business has done like over 15 million in sales. I'm coming up on 20 employees. We're getting a big new building, but of course I could always do better. And I think a lot of my audience are people who want to start businesses, be productive. So if you're talking to somebody who's inspired and they want to do more with like productivity, where would you start with that?
Hmm.
With someone who's trying to get more productive in their life?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think depends a lot on where they're coming from and where they're at. So usually, like the biggest bang for your buck comes from just the fundamentals of making sure that you sleep well, because if you're trying to focus with a bad night's sleep, it's like really hard. It's like swimming upstream, and yeah, like making sure that you're having good nutrition and exercise. I think those are the guaranteed things that you kind of have to take care of. But then like the other more immediate gains you can get from just making sure that your environment is enables or facilitates to be productive. So if you're like in a very noisy environment or very distractive environment, then yeah, that's also like a very counterproductive. So like for me, like that's why I do when I am like writing a book or creating some content online or something, then I will deliberately eliminate all distractions, whether that be social media or like some other notifications on your phone. All those things, they will just take you out of the zone, and it's very hard to kind of always bounce back and forth between these two states. So if you make it easier for yourself, if you create this environment that is enabling you to be more productive automatically, then yeah, it's going to be that much more effective. So like yeah, what I personally do is like I create this space for myself or time every day where I'm dedicating myself to like the most important things that I need to do in terms of being productive, like creating content and books.
Right.
So that's for me is immediately after I wake up, so I don't start browsing social media or something like that after I wake up. I'll
Right.
just instead I'll kind of take time or take advantage of this time where like the rest of the world is still asleep, and yeah, start working on something.
Yeah, I think everyone listening can understand the distraction of social media or your phone or a text message. And it's difficult sometimes to get away from that stuff, especially when it's so easy and accessible. So do you actually like put your phone in another room, or do you like just turn off all notifications, or you literally take it away, or how do you do that?
Yeah, well, like at the moment, I could have it like right next to me as well and have it bling, and I wouldn't like pay attention to it because I've like
Mm,
it's like a muscle, like being focused is
yeah.
like a muscle. So I've kind of built up this certain, like focus strength, basically that I can be focused even in a noisy environment. But if I wanted to do like more easy for myself, then I would like just put it on airplane mode.
Okay.
And yeah, like yeah, it depends on what level of addiction you have in terms of to your phone.
That's true.
Like if
That's
you're
true.
if you're very addicted to it, then you could like put it away into your other room, because yeah, if you have it within your field of view, then you're naturally going to start to think about it, or something. I
Right.
believe that there's also like some studies show that if people are like talking with them each other during like a dinner or something, if the phone is on the table, then they're like, I don't know, 25% less focused on the other person because they're
That sounds
subconsciously
right.
thinking about the phone. So yeah, like if you don't have something to think about, if it's in the other room, then you won't begin to like think about it either.
Yeah. So sleep, eating healthy, exercise. I think everybody knows that that is good for you. And then discipline is something that everyone knows too, but it's just the actual doing of it. So
Right.
discipline is just, and I like how you said it's a muscle because I always talk about that. If you want to get a big
Yeah.
biceps, you have to continually lift a weight. If you want to get good at focusing, you have to practice it. You have to ignore your phone. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
And it gets easier, right? The more you do it.
Yeah, like it's literally it is literally like a muscle in your
Hmm.
brain. So like your brain is always changing itself, or changing its structure and changing the neural patterns, so called neuroplasticity. And basically like everything you do every day is creating a certain pattern of behavior and thinking, so it becomes a habit the more often you do it. And yeah, like that's why if you are getting distracted very easily, then you're teaching yourself this habit to become more distracted in the future as well, because it
Hmm.
becomes like a part of your brain
It really
literally.
is like that. Yeah.
And
Like,
the tight, like there's the quote that describes neuroplasticity is that neurons that fire together wire together, and
hmm.
neurons that fail to link fall out of sync. So basically that you
Huh.
are, everything you do is making it stronger, this connection. So if you're getting distracted, then you're making the muscle of getting distracted stronger, versus if you're being disciplined,
Mm.
then you're making the discipline muscle stronger. So what I've, in the past, like a few years ago when I was, first discovering this idea, then I was, wow, like, yeah, like literally everything you do is moving you either in some direction. Like you're moving always either becoming more productive and more disciplined or becoming more procrastinating. So
Right.
that was kind of something that I always reminded myself. So whenever I was into this moment, like, okay, I want to like procrastinate or something, then I immediately reminded
Hmm.
myself, okay, this is the slippery slope that is leading me
Yeah.
down this downward spiral, and I don't want to go into that downward spiral. So I'm actually pushing the momentum towards the other side,
Right.
because momentum is also something, it's like physics that an object stays in motion unless it comes into contact with another opposing force. So yeah,
That's
like
right.
if you're moving towards being disciplined, the longer you stay on that course, the easier it is, and the less discipline it actually requires. Versus if you're on the momentum of procrastination and distractions, then it's easier to go down that route. So you have to kind of figure out a way to swing the momentum toward your favor,
Right.
and towards the discipline. So they can sometimes, for people, that can be like a sudden health scare. So it can be like near bankruptcy or something,
Hmm.
something that is just waking them up and making them
Right.
realize that I need to get back into momentum towards
Right.
what is
And
good.
this, I think the skill comes right in that moment where you know you need to do something. Your
Yeah,
brain starts procrastinating, putting something off. Right at that moment, you have to say no. And it's going to be difficult, but then it gets easier and easier, right? Like I
yeah,
wake up at the gym to go to the gym at 5 a.m. every morning. And at first, I've been doing it for a couple of years now. And at first, it was tough, but I made myself get out of bed. And now it's just habit. It's second nature and it's become really easy. So there's a lot of
yeah,
power in that. And it's so simple. It's so
yeah,
simple. It's so simple to explain. But the hard part is the actual doing it. And it does
yeah,
get easier for anyone who wants to build a good habit. It gets easier.
yeah. What I've
So
noticed that like things that teach you to be more aware in a particular moment, and to notice these things is a key. So the more aware you are, the more like mindful you are, then the easier it is to notice these moments and to take advantage of them. So like meditation is amazing for this, because you are literally teaching yourself to
right.
start to pay attention to yourself in third person, so to say. So you begin to see what you're doing, from an external perspective, and then you can
Right.
make more objective decisions, and you're less governed by your emotions
Right.
and these other distractions. So yeah, meditation I've done, yeah, for like, well, I used to do it more often, but yeah, whenever I do it more consistently, that I do notice that, yeah, like everything is just more like smooth, so to say,
Right.
so less
It's
chatter.
building that skill because you're supposed to close your eyes, breathe for 10, 15 minutes, and you're going to want to think about stuff. You're going to want to get up. You're going to want to open your eyes. But it's the skill of ignoring those like tendencies to do that. And then if you can do it
Yeah,
there, then when other things come up, like a distraction, like a phone, you get better and better at being like, I need to put this aside. I need to put this aside. And
yeah,
yeah, and there's a lot of power in that. So productivity, right? So the basics are the things we just discussed. What about like caffeine,
hmm, yeah.
nicotine? Like what about like stimulants or stuff like that? Do you have any opinion on those type of things when it comes to staying focused and productivity?
Yeah, absolutely. Like coffee and caffeine are, yeah, a lot of let's say biohackers and everyone else does use it for productivity and focus, and it does have a, like a alertness boosting effect. So it's yeah, one of the most commonly used performance enhancing drugs in the world, and it does have like some health benefits as well, like lowers risk of liver cancer and lowers risk of diabetes and neurodegeneration. So it does have benefits.
Unless you
Um,
put a lot of cream and sugar in it, right?
well, yeah, yes, for sure. Like Starbucks doesn't count. So,
Right.
uh, but yeah, like it can be like a very good thing if you get it in the right amounts and if you don't overdo it. Because if you like get too much caffeine, then you will become overly stimulated, and that can just actually make it worse and less
Mm,
productive. So yeah, like I prefer whenever I do have like coffee, then I'll drink only like 1 cup or something. And usually per day I'll stick to like 2 cups,
okay.
and there are like some compounds as well that can kind of blunt the caffeine response, so that you would get it more slowly and you would maintain like a more stable energy. So one of them being like L-theanine, which is like naturally found in green tea and other teas.
Mm,
But you can also take it as a supplement. So if you take a supplement with like 200 or 300 milligrams of L-theanine combined with a cup of coffee, uh, then you will see more stable energy and
mm.
let's say more sustained response as well.
Sustained.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think a
and
lot of
also,
people probably overdo the coffee, get real jittery,
yeah,
and then crash later or don't maintain that focus throughout the day. So, what's the name of that again? One more time.
it's a L-theanine. It's a like amino
L-theanine.
acid,
Okay,
L-theanine. Yeah, yeah.
awesome.
But there's also like these fatty coffees where you add like MCT oil or some butter into the coffee and you blend it up, so you get like this very also like the fat is high in calories, and it does slow down the absorption of the caffeine as well. So this, which is the bulletproof coffee kind of concept.
Bulletproof coffee, right, with the butter in it. So yeah, the idea for that is it sustains it more.
Yeah, yeah, it slows down the response.
Cool. And like they always talk about in America, like in Silicon Valley, a lot of the guys they might take like these like super performance enhancing drugs, right?
Right.
Like, do you think those ultimately might be negative? Do you think that they help? Do you what are your do you have any opinions on that?
Yeah, like one of the more common ones or renowned ones is modafinil.
Mm-hmm.
So like I've looked into some of the research, and it doesn't appear to have like a superior effect than caffeine, regular caffeine. So you can probably get a similar response
Okay.
as caffeine, but the difference is that modafinil lasts for a lot longer. So modafinil stays in your bloodstream for like hours and hours compared to caffeine that will
Right.
start to diminish already within like 4 or 5 hours.
And
So
I think the problem with some of those things is people think that they can take that and then they don't have to sleep, they don't have to eat healthy, they
right,
can just not do any of the basic things we talked about, sleep, exercise, nutrition, discipline, and they think that they can like take some stimulant and then not have to worry about that other stuff. And that might work for a day or two, right? But it's not going to sustain over time. So,
yeah, and
you can't
it
get around it.
also
You can't get around exercise, sleep, and just being healthy.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So you have to think about it. Yeah, like do you want to do it for the rest of your life, or do you want to do it only for like the short term? So
Right.
which one is the more sustainable option? And there's also the thing that if you, let's say, get dependent off these stimulants in order to be productive, then you're actually, you're not actually being more productive as you are.
Mm,
You're being more productive as the result of taking these things, as these supplements and the whatnot. So and if you were to eliminate those supplements and let's say caffeine itself, then you would fall back into like your baseline, which is very low compared to
Right.
something that if you build your discipline muscles, if you build your focus muscles, then you will naturally have higher focus and productivity without the need of these stimulants. So
Right.
it's more, again, more sustainable, and it's also more free. You're like more freedom because
Right.
you don't need a cup of coffee to stay productive. You can just wake up and go, which is like what I prefer. Like I don't
Right.
want to be dependent on anything,
Right. Right.
whether that be like a paycheck or whether that be uh, a supplement or some nootropic or whatnot. So I would much
Right.
rather be just my baseline level be higher, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I mean, freedom, every human being wants freedom, and being dependent on anything is kind of the opposite of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, productivity. I mean, it's an important thing. And basically, you can't get around it. You got to be disciplined and you got to train those muscles. You got to train the neurons in your brain to be productive. Um, all right. So, one of my favorite things I wanted to talk to you about, I've been saying that I want to live to be 150 years old. Anti aging, right? That's something that you talk about. Uh, what are the keys? What are the keys you think to living a long life?
Right. Well, yeah, like a lot of people expect or hope that there's gonna be some breakthrough that enables humans to live much longer
I was going to
than we
ask about
currently.
that.
But so currently there isn't like any magic pill or supplement
Right.
yet. But there are like some gene therapies and whatnot that supposedly help you to like edit your genes in a way that make like reduce the risk of certain age-related diseases and thus increase your like your potential lifespan. But I think those things aren't necessarily going to make you live beyond like the natural human limit, which it seems to be like that 120 or 125 years is like the current maximum limit that humans can live towards, like the genetic limit. So in order to live beyond that, we would need to like do some serious gene editing or some nanotechnology or something, which like may be available within like maybe the next century or something. But we'll see. But who
Yeah,
knows?
part of my plan to live 150 is to get there 120 naturally, and then hope for some advancement. I mean,
Yeah.
I know it's not good to like depend or hope for something that's breaking through, but gene editing is like the main technology that's being worked on to kind of extend life.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and there are like yeah, you can certainly, there are some other many things that increase like your health span, which is basically me refers to when your lifespan refers to like your biological age, then health span refers to like how healthy you are and how long you stay healthy for. So
Right.
you can like still run around if you're 80 years old or something. That refers to like a high health span compared to like the average Western population person. They already have like some comorbidities and they're physically dysfunctional in their 40s or something already because they're essentially they're aging rapidly, so to say. So their health
Right.
span is very low, and there are like many theories about why we age. Why does this aging process itself set in? And over the past few decades, some of the ideas pop up that it's the result of mitochondrial damage. Like your mitochondria are the power generators of your cells, and as you get older, or like as a byproduct of living itself, the mitochondria produce these free radicals and reactive oxygen species, and those reactive oxygen species just damage the mitochondria and the cells around them. And as you get older, this damage begins to accumulate, and as the mitochondria become dysfunctional, your energy production goes down, your metabolic rate slows down, you become more predisposed to all these diseases, cardiovascular disease, cancers, mutations, and just inflammation spreads around.
Right.
So that is one of the kind of fundamentals of the aging process, that as you get older, just things stop working, and
Right.
things that keep things working kind of sends the signal for the body that it needs to stay healthy for longer are, again, like exercise. Also, one of the kind of go-to known ways of extending lifespan in all species, like in rats, in flies, in mammals, and monkeys, is the calorie restriction, which is like just eating fewer calories. And if you eat fewer calories, then the body experiences less of this reactive oxygen species damage and kind of stays healthier for longer. So if you like overeating, not exercising, those things, they also cause they promote the accumulation of this free radical
Right.
damage. And calorie restriction, fasting is gonna
Fasting.
mimic, like fasting is gonna mimic the effects of calorie restriction and exercise. Although exercise is like does cause also this small amount of stress to the body. It is actually beneficial stress in moderation, because the body responds to this stress by turning on the antioxidant genes and starting to repair things and making
Okay.
yourself more youthful. So a small amount of stress is beneficial, and it actually needed in the example of like
Right.
exercise, as well as like heat exposure, saunas, and intermittent fasting.
Saunas. Yeah. So intermittent fasting, that is something that is, I know, a big thing. It's a buzzword. I do it sometimes. Like, why? I feel like, why is intermittent fasting so popular recently? Is it been like a
Right.
breakthrough? Like, I feel like when I was a kid in public school in America, and my parents, they'd say, don't
Yeah.
don't not eat. Eating, it's bad for you. You know, you
Yeah.
want to eat. You don't ever want to be hungry. Has that been something that has had a breakthrough lately? Or why does it seem like only in the past 5, 10 years has fasting become so popular?
Yeah, well, there has been, let's say, studies in animals and monkeys that have shown that fasting does extend the lifespan a little bit. And one of the kind of more promising things about it is that it's probably not like superior to other means. It's just going to kind of mimic some of the effects and help you to avoid some of the negative side effects. Like fasting can achieve the same effects as calorie restriction without needing to like reduce the calories. So you can have the option of trying to mimic the starvation diet of a laboratory
Right.
mouse, where you're eating only like you're eating 30% fewer calories for the rest of your life, which doesn't sound really appealing and doesn't sound very sustainable. Or you can do some intermittent fasting every once in a while and achieve the same effects. So that is
Yeah.
probably the biggest appeal in terms of the anti-aging effect. And fasting also does other things. It does also boost the antioxidant defense mechanisms in the body, promotes things like stem cells, which are very known for the anti-aging effects, that they replace old and dysfunctional cells. And the fasting also eliminates things like these broken mitochondria. It eliminates just this junk material and waste material through the process of called autophagy. And
Autophagy. Yeah. Your
yeah,
book's about that, right?
yeah, it's one of the books that I wrote, Metabolic Autophagy, that
And it's
describes.
basically like the body eating itself in a way, but it's almost like cleaning yourself out. Is that a
Yeah,
good way
yeah,
to put
yeah,
it?
yeah. The simple terms is, yeah, it just cleans it out and eliminates these bad cells that spread inflammation and reactive oxygen species. So yeah, if imagine if you never cleaned your house, then the junk begins to accumulate there, and it's hard for you to move around. it's
Right.
uh it's
Right.
hard for you to find something, and that is essentially what happens with aging as well. Like with aging, waste material accumulates, free radical damage accumulates, cells become more slow, and the communication between these different hormones and pathways also becomes derailed. And yeah, that's kind of a good
Yeah.
kind of metaphor.
Yeah, I think it's counterintuitive for a lot of people who want to think cleaning themselves out by not eating anything. But it's
Right.
basically just, yeah, it's just letting the body like get a break, right? And just resetting. And done a lot of research on fasting, and I can't believe how good for you it is. It helps lose weight. It helps. And it almost give you more energy in a way?
Well, yeah, like a lot of people do anecdotally report that it does increase energy levels, or like this focused attention, and it does, let's say, raise this small amount of cortisol, the stress hormone that gives you alertness and energy. And you will also like, let's say, lower the inflammation levels, and inflammation can, let's say, cause like depressive symptoms and make you slower in some sense.
Right.
So it does give energy, because you're essentially starting to burn your own body fat for fuel as well.
Right.
And we all carry a lot of calories in our body fat with us all the time. And we shouldn't, like, really, if you think about it, then given how much calories we have in our body fat, we shouldn't like really feel hungry all the time. Like we should be able to fast for days before we get hungry,
Yeah. You're not
because
gonna like die because you don't have any
right,
food in your stomach.
right.
Um, yeah. So I mean, with productivity, fasting, anti-aging, like what are some really bad things? Obviously, I mean, unhealthy food, right? Like fried food.
Right.
Like, what are the worst things someone can do if they want to just die and not be productive, what should they do all the time?
Right. Yeah. Well, maybe live the average American lifestyle, or the American diet, where
Big
yeah, like
giant
about
hamburger, French fries, barbecue
yeah,
sauce.
yeah, exactly, like a high fat, high sugar foods, high calorie foods.
Sugar's terrible, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, sugar tends to be more bad than natural carbohydrates and fructose and those things.
So good
So
though.
yeah, well, it's a evolutionary trick that our bodies are hardwired to want these hyper palatable sugary foods and high fatty foods. So
Why
it's
is that?
like, well, it's a mostly like a evolutionary survival thing, that it sugar indicates like this fast absorbing energy that we can just eat and use it immediately, whereas
Mm,
fat is something that we can store. It's much higher in calories, and we can store it in our adipose tissue also more easily as a result of that. So yeah,
yeah.
like
So
both of
so our
those.
ancestors who did not have access to food like we do, that is what kind of is built into our evolution. But
Yeah,
it's not up to date for the world where we can go get an Oreo or a cookie anytime we want,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
such
It's
a dirty trick of the body. It sucks.
yeah. Well, it's not the trick of the body. Like it's the trick by the food industry. So they know this. They
Mm,
know this trick, and they exploit it to their advantage and to our disadvantage. That they just design these foods to be specifically hyper palatable, to
mm-hmm.
specifically have these ingredients in the right amounts, so that we would become addicted to those
Yep.
foods. And one
They
of the best
taste
books about
good. They taste good and they're cheap to produce too. So they make a lot of money
yeah,
selling them.
yeah, like the healthiest, or the least satiating food, or the most satiating foods that ones you can't like really overeat. Lean proteins and vegetables; those things tend to be more expensive. So
Right. Right. What about alcohol? I love having a drink. I like drinking alcohol. How bad is alcohol for you and when it comes to aging and health? I know it's not the best thing.
right. Well, it's not the worst thing either. I think.
Ah,
So
great.
so that's like the what makes the poison is the dose. So it kind of describes alcohol as well, and in these very like longevity hotspots in like Sardinia and Greece and Costa Rica, those regions that they have like moderate alcohol consumption, like wine and things. So it kind of describes a similar effect as exercise does, that it causes a small amount of stress, and the body tries to
Mm.
detoxify the alcohol and upregulates the antioxidant defenses like glutathione. But yeah, like if you over, it's very easy to overdo the alcohol as well, and then you can get like fatty liver and some other problems from that.
And beer has a lot of sugar.
Yeah,
And like so like I mean I've heard red wine is a glass of red wine with dinner is kind of good. It has antioxidants. It can give that effect. Like it probably depends. Obviously, you don't want to overdo it with anything, but it's
yeah,
probably beer the worst out of the spectrum.
yeah. Like the more higher carb alcohols,
Right.
like beer, cider, long drinks, cocktails. Yeah, those
Yeah.
margaritas, those things,
Right.
they tend to be worse than the spirits or wines. Like red wine is pretty good. So this has like this dark polyphenols, and like the resveratrol is a very famous anti-aging molecule that helps with like blood sugar, and is supposedly help with the anti-aging as well. But in order to get like a significant amount of resveratrol from red wine, you would have to drink several liters or something. So yeah, like there is some small amounts in there, but it's not like that significant. But yeah, like if you drink a glass of wine for dinner, that's not a big deal. I wouldn't drink it like maybe every night, but yeah, like maybe 2 to 3 glasses per week would be
Right.
pretty okay.
Right.
Wouldn't affect in a negative way.
And then like a vodka or something like that, it's easier to overdo, I'm sure. And most people probably don't drink it straight. They might combine it with soda or something like
Right.
that. So I think on the spectrum, wine, and I've heard that before, is all right. So I'm gonna continue to have a glass a couple times a week.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say you gave me permission.
Right.
There's like sea turtles and like parrots. Don't they like live incredibly long compared to like other animals? Like who's the longest living species on the planet?
Yeah, I think there are like some corals. Like you can argue whether that
Ah,
corals are alive, but
right.
they are. I think they're like maybe three or like 30,000 years old or something. And there are like
Jeez.
some great sharks, or like whale sharks. I think they're also like, yeah, maybe a few thousand years old or a few hundred years.
Jeez.
And
Is there anything to learn from that, or are they just a different species and there's nothing humans can learn from it? Or is it because I don't know, they're active, they eat health? Like, is there any takeaway from animals that live long?
well, I personally think that it is because of, let's say, these environmental stressors, so to say. A small amount of these environmental stressors just, keep the body on its toes, if that makes sense. That if you're in a very
Yeah.
comfortable environment, you have central heating on all the time, you have access to calories all the time, you're very, very like stagnant or very
Yeah.
coasting, so that you don't have like this signal from the environment that says that you
Okay.
alive. Whereas if you are living in a slightly colder environment, you're living in some calorie restriction, you're living in some food scarcity and some, exercise and some intermittent fasting, then for your body perceives the signal that it needs to kind of, stay longer.
Yeah.
And
And you're mentioning stressors a lot, like the stressor from alcohol, the stressor from exercise, from fasting, and you say stressors are good. Like a lot of people say stress is bad, stress is negative, stress can have a negative effect on your life. Where's the balance there?
hmm, yeah, like the poison is in the dose. And what stress itself is it's like a very indifferent phenomenon. So stress,
Mm,
whether or not stress is good or bad, depends on, yeah, like how you respond to it, and who is the person responding to it. So what is your like metabolic health, and what is your current status? Like exercise for let's say someone who is used to running a marathon every day is not that stressful.
right.
Whereas if you're like, completely sedentary or like older person, then it is very stressful for you. So there's always the subjectivity or the
And
context that matters.
it seems like in there, there's an element of mental health, like how somebody reacts to something like with their mind. So, I mean, if you exercise all the time and you eat healthy, but you're just like scared of the world, or you're scared of a spider, scared of a risk, scared of everything. Like, I feel like that person might not live as long or be as
Right.
healthy. Like, so that comes down to your mindset, right?
Yeah, like the brain doesn't tell the difference between like a psychological stress and physical stress. So
Right.
if you like imagine running away from a bear and you actually vividly imagine what it feels like, then you would, experience a similar response in terms of like you increase your adrenaline levels, your cortisol levels, your blood pressure tends to rise. So you are like yeah, like mimicking it to a certain extent. And you can definitely make even like this everyday stressors very, significant in a negative way because of
Right.
your overreacting. And yeah, like if there are like some studies show that, yeah, like if you're like a type A personality who is always like, go 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 and always stressed out basically, then you are increasing the risk of some diseases or cardiovascular disease because your like blood pressure is higher more
Yeah.
often basically.
Yeah.
And
I'm very go, 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 but I'm not very stressed because I think I've done a good job
yeah,
getting used to it and being comfortable with it, building up those muscles to be able to handle high level things. I'm sure the Elon Musks and the most successful people of the world, they have to deal with a lot of things, but they're good at it, and that
right.
has to do with building up that muscle, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like it is always, yeah, like of the person who is doing it. So yeah, I personally also I'm not like stressed if I'm like I'm able to write for like 5 hours straight and do like these very long days where I'm, yeah, like working from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and I
Hmm.
don't feel stressed out by the end of the day because like I
Right.
enjoy it. I've built up the skill. And yeah, like I've learned to kind of frame it in a positive way as well. So if you frame it
Frame
in a
it. I
if you
love
frame it in
that.
a bad way, then yeah, it's gonna be very stressful for you, and you experience the negative symptoms. Whereas if
Yeah.
you are like, because like let's say you're in a very hard physical environment. Like let's take the sauna. So the sauna is considered a therapeutic practice. So it has like some health benefits, like lowers the risk of cardiovascular disease, and other benefits in terms of like blood sugar regulation. And it is, if you're sitting in a sauna, then you're enjoying it. You're not freaking out. You're not stressed
Right.
out. You're actually relaxing and enjoying it. Whereas if you're like in a desert, the temperatures in a desert may actually be like even lower than in a sauna. Like the sauna can go up to like 212 Fahrenheit, whereas the desert is, half of that. So
Right.
when you're in a desert, you actually may freak out and you get very stressed out because you think you're like dying or something, you're dehydrated. you think you're lost, you're there's no point of there's
Right.
no return, and you are stressed out compared to when you're in a sauna. The situation is completely different because you're like with your friends or something, so you're
Right.
actually enjoying it.
Yeah. I think framing is one of the most important things. Like I always tell myself, who cares if my business fails? I can go live in my mom's basement. I can still have clothes. I can still have access to food. I mean, we live in an amazing time where you can go to McDonald's and get something for $1. Like you're not going to die. You
Right.
can have food. You're going to have shelter. And when you frame it like that, and then also everyone's going to die and eventually you're going to be forgotten or
Yeah.
the world's going to explode. Like who cares? And that to me is a positive thing because I'm framing it in the fact that nothing bad enough can happen to me that I'm going to be in pain for a million years. Like everything is handleable. And I think
Right.
that is a great like approach. And that's I've had a plan to how to live to 150. I'm not an expert like you. One of it is part technology, obviously part health and exercise. But the other part is like, I feel like a lot of people, when they get older, they pass away when they feel worthless, or if they're in a relationship and they're had a 70-year beautiful marriage and their wife or their husband dies and then they are just home alone and they I feel like I've seen a lot of people die when their circumstances in life are kind of taken away from them. There's a famous college football coach in America. He was a Penn State football coach. He was like the oldest coach ever. He was like 80-year-old coaching at the highest level, Joe Paterno. And he got his team taken away from him for like this scandal. And he died like right after. And I was like,
Yeah.
I bet you he was living for football and it got taken away from him. So like one of my plans is if I'm like 115 and I don't know, my wife dies or I feel lost in the world, I'm going to try to like join a club or like start something else that I'm passionate about. And I think that might work. You think it'll work?
Right. Yeah, well, the social connections and relationships are very underrated and very important in terms of like longevity. And so the research does find that yeah, people who have like family members or even like a dog or cat to live for, then they do live longer. And whenever the other half dies, then they also lose their sense of purpose. So this meaning and sense of purpose is
Purpose.
very important
Purpose.
to kind of
I'm
keep you
always
keep you.
going to maintain purpose. I feel like that's like one of the
Yeah.
keys to a happy life and a long life.
Yeah,
Purpose.
and all these longevity hotspots as well. They live in very small communities, very close communities with each other, and that is, I think, one of the bigger commonalities among them all, because they all eat like a different type of diet slightly. They live in different kind of environments, but one key thing is that they have like close relationships.
Yeah, and a small community means that you're more valuable in that community,
Of
meaning
course,
that
yeah.
you have purpose.
Yeah.
Purpose. I like how you said a pet too, or just anything you can do to put that in your
Yeah.
life. I'm just going to run my business till I'm 140 and I'll retire then.
Right.
But yeah, I love that. I think that's one of the keys. And I didn't know that there was research behind it. So that's good. So, all right. So weight loss, right? Like my producer, Brandon, he's a heavier guy. Like if somebody is heavier and they need to follow these principles, right? Actually, in between that, how much are genetics a part of this stuff? Like, do some people have genetics that maybe make them heavier, and then that makes it harder? Like, I just did a 23andMe, and then I was looking through the details. It's some of the genetics said like, if I don't do high intensity workout, I have more ability to gain weight. I've always been like maybe 10. I could always lose like 10, 15 pounds. How much do genetics play a part in all this stuff?
Well, they do have like some predisposing effects, but your genetics aren't your destiny. Like your
Right.
environment and your like epigenetics is more important. So epigenetics means like above genetics, and
I love
epigenetics
that.
is everything, like your lifestyle, your habits, what you eat, how you exercise, and all those things. So the genes aren't going to be turned on basically unless the environment
Right.
enables them to do. And if your like epigenetics, your environment is different, then you're not probably going to you're not going to have to follow the similar or like a certain pathway. You can change
Right.
your
Right. So
trajectory.
if someone is predisposed to obesity, they might have to work a little harder, but eventually, like you said, anything that you do over and over becomes easier. And then you just basically have to follow those principles of discipline, exercise, healthy eating, good sleep, and then it should get easier. And like, there's no excuse,
Well,
right?
right. Well, they don't necessarily have to work harder because it's about more like finding what works for you, what is the more sustainable approach to you, and then sticking to it more consistently, and so to say. So you can lose weight on any diet. Whether or not the specific diet works for you depends again, yeah, like how you what how do you prefer to eat, and what sort of thing. So yeah, like yeah, working harder isn't always the best solution, and it's not guaranteed to give you results. Like working smarter tends to be like
Okay.
better.
All right. So let's bring Brandon in here. What's up, Brandon?
Hey, what's up?
Brandon, he's heavier. And 6 months ago, I said, let's make a deal. You got to lose 50 pounds in 6 months. And I even spiced up the deal lately. I offered him $5,000 if he can get there. And it's like 3 weeks away, his final weigh-in. So Brandon has a couple questions for us. But first, do you have any tips for him? I mean, we kind of covered it, but any specific tips for him?
Well, I think trying to make it maybe on a similar note as the productivity thing, that trying to make the weight loss as easy for you as possible is the key. So that if you're surrounded by, let's say, junk food and those things with opportunities to eat, then you're naturally going to make it more likely that you will eat them. So, try to maybe remove all the junk food and bad foods in your environment, and having only the healthy foods in your environment. That is the first step. And then the foods that you do eat should be very like satiating and very filling, that don't have like a bunch of calories. So that would be like these vegetables, fibers, and mostly like protein sources, but because protein is very, let's say, filling, and
Okay.
it does have like also positive effect on weight loss.
All right. You got that, Brandon?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so yeah, this session was called Brandon's Big Bites, and let's give us a couple questions. What you got for us, Brandon?
All right, so number one, so like, yeah, I'm overweight. Just was recently, they said I'm basically borderline diabetic, and they said I also have like non-alcohol fatty liver. That's basically due to obesity, and all that can be reversed. But that just makes me like think about like the body and how it can heal. Like, is there a point of no return, like with diseases, and how you're affecting your body, and how much can the body heal itself?
Yeah, well, it depends a lot on your age. So, like with the younger you are, the more you can get away with things, and the older you get, like the aging process itself increases the risk of all the diseases and makes it harder to like recover from them as well. So, if you're young, you can get away with it with more. But the problem is also that if you follow these bad lifestyle habits, overeating and things, then you're also speeding up the aging process, so to say. So you're speeding up the aging of your metabolic health and your immune system health and those things. So I would say that trying to let's say be on point. Let's say I don't believe to be like a purist that you need to be eating the healthy diet all the time. But I would say like maybe like 90% of the time you still need to be pretty, let's say, eating the clean diet.
Brandon, how old are you?
I'm 27.
You're about the same age as Siim.
Yeah.
So you are not too far past a point. Is that right, Siim? Like he's not too far where he can't get a six-pack if he wanted to. He's young.
Yeah, of course. Like there's people turning it around at like 50s or 60s or even. So it's never too late to begin, or never too late to try to change trajectories. It's just going to be that much easier the younger you are.
Yeah, so it's never too late, especially not now, Brandon. You're so young.
Yeah. And that goes to my like second question. So, in the future, humans will figure out how to stop the aging process. So like, so once they figure out how to live forever, like hundreds of years from now, like, do you think they'll still have the discipline, like to like use that plan? And would they want to live forever? Do you think humans would want to live forever once they figure it out?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would think that there's always going to be some people who will keep the lights on, so to say. So if some people will want to die, then they can choose to not take the pill.
I'm living forever.
Yes, but I think that if we do get like some technology or some pill that will enable us to live longer, then most people would take it. And if they wish to stop, then yeah, they will have the option to stop. So I think that no one is going to stop them.
But also, I feel like it's a bad thing to be unhealthy and just be like, oh, I hope that pill comes sometime soon. right? Like that's not a good plan. Would you agree?
Yeah, well, because I personally believe that there is merit to, let's say, embracing this discipline and restriction on yourself. So it's a virtue, so to say, that it's a virtue to not like fall into temptation and not or to do the right thing, if that makes sense. That's what is
Yeah.
the essence behind virtue, that you do the right thing, which is to practice, to like eat in moderation, to not overindulge, and to do your work, and to try to bring more value to the world, even if there's like no inherent, let's say, necessity for it. So I think
it doesn't seem like that pill might be like good for humanity. I mean, first of all, this
Yeah.
pill is hypothetical. Doesn't
Yeah,
exist.
exactly.
There might be some things that can extend it a little bit or some gene editing, but like a pill that just makes you live forever and perfectly healthy, I don't think that's something to bank on or something to like consider. But then even if you did, it's you still might, like Siim saying, is you still might like have bad habits, bad relationships, not be able to be successful because you
Yeah.
still have those bad habits, right?
Yeah. Well, we would imagine that we are like all problems would be solved if we were to have this pill and live forever. But I think it doesn't solve, but maybe like it's not going to solve like the like negative emotions or some depression or something. We would try to maybe start to pursue this more and try to get to the next high, so to say. Like we become these drug addicts of trying to
Yeah.
find the next high, because we're not satisfied with what we got. So that is actually suffering, so to say. We're never satiated. We're
Yeah.
this hungry ghost that is trying to gorge ourselves
And then you're going to live
with
forever in a depression, and that's going to be like basically hell.
yeah. Well, that's sounds like hell. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What about
Alright.
like depression? Or, like real quick, like that I know is something some people say it's because of circumstances. Some people say it's like because of genetic predisposition.
Inflammation of the brain.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
There is some genetic factors, but yeah, like environment is huge. Like inflammation is very correlated with depression and neurodegeneration as well. Uh, but yeah, like these, let's say, societal conditions and those things are also very huge. Like if you're living in a very oppressive society, for instance, or even like vitamin D, for example, like lack of sunlight, lack of
Yeah.
vitamin D, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Got
All
any
right,
more,
I got
Brandon?
yeah. I got two more. So question
right.
3. I don't know if you're like a conspiracy like theorist or anything, but like, do you think we already have the cure for cancer and we're just not using it on like just with all the science? And you think like in the future, once we figure out how to stop aging, like you think we'll ever cure cancer, basically?
Right. Well, yeah, that's a tough question.
Cancer's the
Like if
worst.
yeah. Well, I think if let's say like if we did get like a cure for cancer and the population would know about it, then they would demand like that it would be like given out, so to say, so that then if it's all, they're gonna basically revolt if there's not gonna be access to it. But if the, let's say, if it's kept secret and only the elites use it, then then I don't like, there's no way to know.
Right.
I,
I mean, COVID, we got the vaccine for COVID, and yeah, people are demanding it's free, people are getting it, whatever. Why would a cancer be different?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
like it's if yeah, it's a matter of knowledge about it, and if it were to be rolled out, then people would get access to it. Like so I do I think that I think there may be like some, let's say, experimental things that could help with that, but yeah, like there's no like mainstream acknowledgement.
yeah, I'm not a conspiracy guy. I think if there was a cure for cancer, it would have like leaked out, people would know about it, and then the companies that make it would want to sell it and make money, right?
Right.
So
Yeah,
that's what
there's a
I think. I don't know.
huge profit incentive. Like yeah, trying to keep it for yourself isn't gonna you're not gonna get
They-
rich.
yeah, they want to make money. Like they can make so much money, but yeah, interesting.
All right, and then okay, so question 4. So my biggest fear with COVID-19 is it's just the beginning of like more to come. And so like how do you think we should protect ourselves against like respiratory diseases other than using a face mask, etc., like vitamins and stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah. yeah, for sure, like making sure that you have good nutrient status, like vitamin D levels are on the optimal range. Then magnesium is important, selenium, zinc. That would be like the bigger ones. And in terms of like more the respiratory conditions, then like what offsets like the cytokine storm and things are, let's say, inflammation and hyperglycemia. So like, high blood sugar tends to worse the symptoms of any kind of infection and virus. So like the diabetic and obese people tend to spread, or they carry the virus for longer than regular people, and that just increases the risk that things will get worse as a result of that as well. So yeah, like just trying to improve your metabolic health, that doesn't really have to take that long either. Like people can see improvements in their blood sugar and metabolic syndrome even within like a few weeks of just eating the proper diet and losing weight with it and getting all the nutrients. So I think, yeah, like the metabolic health is huge, and just ensuring that you get adequate nutrients.
So the answer to everything is exercise, eat healthy, get good sleep, and train your brain to be disciplined. Is that untrue? That's true, right? That's essentially on a baseline level the answer to everything as far as it comes to health. Be healthy.
Well, those are the kind of pillars,
right?
yeah,
The pillars, right?
Yeah, and there's also like the biggest, let's say, bang for a buck. So they'll say that no, like supplement isn't gonna, like exercise is one of the most potent like therapies out there. So say if exercise, like, we want to get exercise in a pill, but but exercise itself is the pill, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I exercise every day, and I feel great when I'm done. It's like a high.
Yeah.
Like it's like a high for me, and I enjoy it, and I know it's good for me. So I love it. You just got to get used to it.
Yeah, and one specific thing for the respiratory infections is also like the sauna. So that has been shown to like lower the prevalence and risk of influenza a lot, especially in the winter times. So yeah, like the heat exposure is also very beneficial for immune system.
Cool. Awesome, man. So Siim, what's next for you? You are a successful young guy. You're an author. Like where are you going to go? Where are you going to be in the next 10, 15 years? What's your plan?
Well, not sure, like the 10, 15 years, I would imagine that, I'm, building up like some sort of my own personal platform, as well as
yeah, I mean, what do you have, like 100,000 YouTube subscribers, something like that?
Yeah, and what I'm trying to do with it is just more education about health and this biohacking, and try to spread the information about that. So yeah, like a semi-media / education company would be maybe something that I start, but currently I'm doing it like under my own personal brand.
Are most of your followers, customers, American, Estonian, across the world? I mean, does everyone in Estonia speak English?
Well, most people do, like younger people, all of them do, basically younger, but yeah, like it's a very like a natural or easy, like the education system is very high, like one of the best education systems in the world.
And they teach everyone English now?
I started studying English in the second grade, so when I was like 7. So yeah,
cool.
But for the audience, about like 50% I think is in the North America, Canada, and US, and the 50% is like Europe and the rest of the world.
Cool. Sweet. What's the perception of America over there? I consider myself such an American person. I'm fast talking, business guy, go. Like, right. Is America perceived negatively, positively?
I think
you can give it to us. It's all right. You can say
what did you think about Trump, our president?
Well, I think, I personally don't think he's that bad. So, look, the media makes him worse than he actually is. So
you're right.
So yeah,
you sound like an American in a way.
Well, yeah, that depends on what you're focusing on. Like, so some people think of the States as like this obese country. Some other people think that it's like this war army country. So yeah, depends on which. I think most Estonians think that Americans tend to be maybe like a little bit uptight or something.
Okay.
But most Estonians.
Oh, go ahead.
But most Estonians like don't come into contact with a lot of Americans. It's not a big. Estonia isn't a big like a tourist spot for Americans.
Right. Yeah. The storyline over here right now for our country is that we're kind of like divided because of the media and social media, and everyone has to take a side. Is that a storyline that you're aware of about America over there?
Well, the news here, they don't. Yeah, they follow basically what they hear from the American news, so they don't have their own investigation. I think.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, I love America, but I don't know. Maybe I'll go to Estonia one day.
I have 2 quick questions, Siim. What's like your favorite American movie or American band? Just a question.
Yeah. Well, the movie would be. Well, maybe like I do like Star Wars and the Matrix, that kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. I got Baby Yoda on my hat. So.
Yeah.
But an American band, one of my like the bigger bands that I like from America is As I Lay Dying, which is like a metalcore band.
Yeah.
I don't know them.
That's like a heavier metalcore band.
Nice.
And then, like, where does the passion come from to like spread this information that you learned and know?
Well, it was I wanted to be like a writer and I wanted to be like an author and just to do just educate myself and learn about these things and write about them and share it with others. So that was that's where I just started to create a blog and a YouTube channel from that.
Dude, I think you're going to be incredibly successful. And yeah, appreciate you coming on. Why don't you give a pitch to where people should follow you, what you want them to do, buy your book, subscribe to your YouTube channel?
Yeah, like you can check out Siim on YouTube, Instagram, and my books are on Amazon. They're like Stronger by Stress, Metabolic Autophagy, and The Immune Fix, which I co-authored with Dr. James DiNicolantonio.
Awesome. All right, everyone go follow Siim. I really appreciate your time. I learned a lot. Discipline, exercise, healthy eating, a little bit of stressors, and I'm still allowed to drink red wine. So I appreciate your condoning that. Yeah, man, thanks so much for coming on. I had a great time.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was a good
time. All right, take care. Oh my God. I just got the worst news ever. Turns out, if you don't subscribe to the podcast, I will die. So please subscribe. Please. My life depends on it.